Is Joey Aguilar going to be the guy?
I would think so. You need somebody with as much experience as they can possibly have, even if it's not at the level of a Power Four like he had up there in Appalachian State. Diego is the best thing that ever happened to Vanderbilt. I am a fan of Diego. I love his playing style and his brashness. He's not going to be running Tennessee. That's funny. That's ridiculous.
What is up, everybody? Thanks again for joining us on today's edition of Crain and Company. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Please keep sharing the show. We really appreciate it. Appreciate you making Crain and Company a daily watch and or listen. Got another great one for you today. We're going to dive deep into a team that has been fascinating this offseason. And if you're a Tennessee fan, fascinating could be negative or positive, depending on where you're looking at it. Really excited to bring on a special guest, but before I bring him in, David Cone, former Michigan quarterback to my left, Western State, Colorado, former wide receiver Blaine Crain to my right. And our guest today is a guy that we found who has a very active YouTube channel, does a really, really good job talking college football, especially Tennessee. Our buddy John from Sports Talk J. John, what's up, John? What's up, buddy?
Welcome in.
Gentlemen, very nice to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Of course. Well, look, I want to get into, obviously, the personnel part of it, because that's what matters the most, the guys on the field making the plays. But from a Tennessee fan base perspective, with all the craziness that went on with Nico, and I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that 80 to 90%, maybe even more of the Tennessee fan base are standing behind Josh Heupel and the way he went about this, not making one guy bigger than the team. After losing him, you bring in another couple of quarterbacks. We're going to talk about them in a second. But does Josh Heupel have some grace this year as far as wins and losses? I know the standard at Tennessee is really high. You just made the college football playoff. But is the fan base, if we look up and at one point, they're 7-4 or something like that, is there going to be a little bit more understanding or rationality than there would be if this wouldn't have happened in another year?
Yeah, I think there will be some of that grace. Now, granted, it's an SEC fan base, so don't get it twisted on that. If you start losing, they're going to get upset. But yes, there will be. There's a lot of blame to go around, but almost all of it goes to Nico's team on that whole deal. There's a lot of unhappy people about that, and they do not blame Josh. They don't. They feel like they treated him really well, and the coach certainly treated him well. And Nico made an emotional decision, and I think the Pete Nakos article kind of got it rolling, and then things got completely off the rails. And then Nico made a decision of a 19, 20-year-old based on emotions.
Yeah, well, I think the sadder part, and obviously it's alleged, is that I think his father, who's not 19 years old, also made a big part in that emotional decision, and I've heard some other things as well that went into it. But as far as who's going to be the guy behind center for Tennessee this fall, you bring in Joey Aguilar. You basically did a trade with UCLA. You can call it what you want to call it, but that's what you basically did. He goes from App State to UCLA. Nico goes to UCLA. He goes to Tennessee. Then you have Jake Merklinger there, who's been in the program, knows the offense, and the young guy, McIntyre, who I know in the spring wasn't going against the ones, but I think he was, 12 of 15, 190 yards, 3 touchdowns. Is Joey Aguilar going to be the guy, John? Is he going to be the quarterback that Tennessee trots out there to start off?
I would think so. David could speak to this as well as anybody. You're not going to go out and play in the SEC or the Big Ten with no experience and light the place up. You need somebody with as much experience as they can possibly have, even if it's not at the level of a Power Four like he had up there in Appalachian State. I'd much rather have the fifth-year guy that's, been in the trenches and been under a ton of pressure and knows how to handle it than necessarily somebody brand new. I know Jake Merklinger was a high recruit. He was a 4-star. But he's never really played any important action. I think he'll probably be the backup. And then, of course, they'll have George McKnight, who was a top 100 guy that's going to be a true freshman, and he's 6'6", 190. I wouldn't want to trot him out there right now.
Big shout out and thanks to our friends over at Bearskin for sponsoring today's show. They sent us their Heavy Storm rain jacket and hoodie combo. And after testing it out in the rain earlier, we can confidently say this is the best 3-in-1 rain jacket I've ever owned. It folds down into its own stash pocket as well. Takes up almost no space in your backpack or pocket. It's a total game changer in heavy or light rain. This thing is fully waterproof. That's because it's got fully taped seams, silicone sealed zips, and adjustable cuffs. And the hood is designed to not allow any water near that beautiful face you got. And it's not just any old jacket. It's also got 5 waterproof pockets, so all your gear stays dry, whether you're hiking, fishing, biking, or getting caught in a storm on your way to go to the tailgate to watch the boys run it down on the gridiron. This is that one crucial rain jacket that you need. And here's the best part. It actually zips into the Bearskin hoodie as well, turning both into a 3-in-1 all-weather system, a true dual-threat version. So your fleece stays warm and dry underneath, and you stay comfortable and dry on the outside. We love it. Look at David.
Yeah.
And
there's 3-in-1. It's not even a dual threat. That's a triple.
That's a triple threat. Good job, Blaine.
Thanks.
And when you order your Bearskin rain jacket, you'll get fast delivery and free shipping from within the U.S. to get yours for 60% off. That's right. You can get it for 60% off. All you got to do, real easy, you text Crain, that's C-R-A-I-N, to 36912.
Damn, she fine.
Yep, even if you're busy right now, text C-R-A-I-N to 36912, and they'll send you a link so you can lock in your discount for later. So if you go outdoors, rain or shine, text Crain to 36912 and get 60% off the best rain jacket in the market. I mean, Cone, we've watched Aguilar play. He's got a lot of ability. He's just, I wonder if this Heupel offense will maybe limit his improv and could turn to limiting those turnovers as
well. That could be a good thing, right?
For sure.
And I know it should go without saying, but you want a guy who wants to be there. That's in this NIL era, that's a big starting point, is like, hey, who wants to be the quarterback at Tennessee? Clearly, Joey Aguilar's like, hey, give me a shot. I'm hungry. I think that's going to go a long way in galvanizing this team. I remember back in 2022 when they needed a play, though, Hendon Hooker's the guy to make that play. Remember, you finally beat Nick Saban in Alabama at Neyland Stadium. He's the guy who's making a play late so they can kick that field goal. Joe Milton, it didn't really work out like that when Joe Milton was the guy. And then last year, Nico did some great things early on, and I thought that was going to translate to some of the bigger moments that Tennessee had, but it really didn't. Dylan Sampson was the guy who was carrying that team, 1,400-yard rusher, led the conference in rushing. How big is the rushing attack going to be now that he is gone and you're bringing in a new quarterback, John?
Well, I tell you, the thing about Dylan Sampson, who was a terrific running back, he was a 3-star, by the way, and fan favorite for sure. We've run the ball every year with Josh Heupel beautifully. And especially now that the defenses have gone back into my technical explanation of it, I call it the umbrella defense, where they back off the defensive backs and try to make you work your way down the field instead of having those big strikes that Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt had during those 2 years with those, incredible plays. We didn't get a lot of that last year. And also we had the problem with Nico, who I agree looked fantastic the first few games. Then when he got in the big games against Alabama and Georgia and all that, he wasn't able to translate those big, long passes. He just overthrew them. He kind of did a Joe Milton on us a little bit. But he was really a true freshman because that's his first year playing college ball, and he didn't have a lot of experience prior to that. So I think some of that was nerves. But, Nico, I think long-term is going to be okay. I don't want to sit here and bash on the kid. I think he's very talented, but he needed some experience. And like I said, you've got a guy right there that understands that perfectly. I'm sure when David started out as a freshman, he wasn't near the player he was when he was a senior.
Yeah, tell my coaches that. Talking about 6'6", 190. Yeah. No, Nico has all the tools for sure. I agree with you. I think he can still be a good football player if he can get it right up here upstairs. Talking about Josh Heupel's teams running the ball well, yes, for sure. It's kind of a sneaky part of that offense. Jake and I, we talk about it all the time. I'll tell you one thing they haven't done well, though, and that's beat the University of Georgia. Now, I know Blaine's going to get into the entire schedule, but Tennessee has not beaten Georgia since Josh Dobbs tossed that Hail Mary in 2016. You get them at home this year, though. They're coming to Neyland. Should Tennessee fans have hope that the Volunteers can finally beat the Bulldogs?
Well, they should always have hope. Georgia's the one team that we really struggle against, especially recently, because they bully us. They're just better than us on the defense and offensive lines, and they out-talent you, and that's just been the problem with Georgia. we've been able to get past the Alabama situation, fortunately. Thank goodness we beat them 2 out of the last 3 years, which has just been a blessing after losing forever to them. I mean, I can't begin to tell you what a monkey off our back that was. But Georgia's now the new monkey, unfortunately, and they're hard to beat. Yes, I think that we should have some optimism, but I'd have felt better if Nico was in there this year against Georgia, because the second game, I don't know if Joey will have this offense totally figured out in a second game scenario than necessarily somebody that's already played a season under it. But, like I said, we'll see with I remember when Hendon Hooker came out there with this Josh Heupel offense. He had been benched at Virginia Tech, and, man, he went out there and just ripped it right off from day one. As soon as he got put in the game, he was like a monster.
Well, I always say he's the most dangerous hooker since Eileen Warnos, and I still believe that.
Well, if we look at Tennessee right now, we roll through the schedule. We're going to start. We have Syracuse at home.
Aflac kickoff game.
Aflac kickoff game. Yep, shout out Cuse. Got ETSU week 2. Then you got the Georgia Bulldogs at home week 3. UAB at home at Mississippi State. Arkansas at home at Alabama this year. At Kentucky. Oklahoma at home, which will be an interesting, very interesting game. You have New Mexico State at Florida, and then Vanderbilt at home. John, do you see a trap game anywhere? Is there a game in there, not an elite team, right? Maybe kind of a little bit below that. Is there a game in there that just scares you a little bit more than it should?
Oh, boy. There's several in there that concern me. Last year, Arkansas got us at Arkansas, and that was our trap game. This year, it could be Oklahoma. Now, granted, it's at Neyland, but they've got John Mateer, and I think that guy's terrific.
He is.
So I think Oklahoma's looking to turn their well, they need to. Otherwise, Brent Venables is going to be on the hot seat. But, yeah, probably one of those two. I'm always concerned about going to the Swamp, though. That one bothers me as much as any of them.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that separates the men from the boys. And I'm not talking about your health. I'm talking about the Emerson multivitamin from Responsible Man. It's packed with 33 key ingredients that support your body and give it the energy that you need. And new for this season, Responsible Man just launched Theodore Protein. With 25 grams of clean American-made protein powder, it's fuel for men who lead, protect, and show up strong. No soy boys and no shortcuts. And American men, well, unfortunately, we're on average 30 to 50 grams of protein short. Figure it out! Leading to fatigue, slower recovery, and muscle loss over time. A quality protein supplement like Theodore helps close the gap fast, clean, and strong. Plus, Responsible Man's a Daily Wire's Ventures company. So you know these vitamins and proteins are made right here in the good old USA with good old-fashioned American quality. Now, we wouldn't endorse this if we didn't believe in it. This vitamin is part of our daily routine, just like watching game tape or trying to save the city from villains. It's our secret for living a long and healthy life. So here's the deal. Right now, you can take advantage of Responsible Man's Father's Day sale and get your first order for 50% off. Just head over to responsibleman.com and use our code BOOSTER at checkout. But hurry, this still won't last long. That's responsibleman.com with code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for 50% off.
Well, Florida should be an interesting team this year, especially bringing back DJ Lagway. You want to talk about bringing in a new quarterback. And usually what helps a new quarterback is the offensive line. And Tennessee's offensive line this year ought to be pretty interesting. You lose 4 or 5 starters coming back from last year, so you only have one guy. Cooper Mays is a great player. But how will Tennessee look up front this year on the offensive line? I know a lot of new faces will be walking in.
Well, they've got 2 5-stars at the tackle position, left and right tackle, so that's great. Now, granted, one of them's a true freshman, so, he was the number 1 offensive tackle in the country. He's going to start, I'm sure. And then after that, we've got some guys with some real depth, and we brought in some veteran offensive linemen, so I think we'll be okay. But, you're playing against some great defensive lines in the SEC. It's going to be – they better get it going quick. But as the talent's there, I'll say that. The talent is there.
Yeah, and obviously, the main talking point for Tennessee this offseason, as we brought up, was Nico leaving. We talked about Dylan Sampson, but you also lose your 3 best wide receivers, at least from a production standpoint, from last year. Now, you do return a tight end that I think is going to have a big year. I think he had over 300 yards last year, something like that. When you look at the way this Josh Heupel offense is configured, where you have the wide splits, right? A lot of this stuff is going fast. It's predetermined. on alignment based on moving fast and getting them to stick in base. How many playmakers on the outside? Like at the running back position, I think Star Thomas was a great pickup from Duke. Who had transferred from New Mexico State to Duke, had like 871 rushing yards last year. I think he's going to be a good back. But on the outside, those playmakers, right, getting those opposing defenses to say, hey, maybe we need to scoot our safeties back a little bit, which opens up stuff in the run game. How will Tennessee be on the outside at wide receiver after losing those three, losing Squirrel and Brew and those guys?
Well, Mike Matthews was our 5-star, and supposedly he looked fantastic this spring. So I'm fired up about him. Chris Brazel, hopefully he takes a step forward. Yeah. He was a big-time transfer. And then this Braylon Staley, the kid out of South Carolina, this is his second year. He was a top 100 dude. Now, here's the magical name that you need to watch out for that probably you may not know about. The safety, Boo Carter, who we came out of Chattanooga, he played last year and played great at safety, and he also was our punt return, our kickoff return.
He's a witch.
And he is dangerous. He's going to be playing on the offensive side of the ball as well this year. Look for him. He is dangerous.
No, with a name like that, I mean, you're all name team. But then on the defensive side, I've heard people say, oh, well, you had two defensive players drafted in the first round. James Pierce was the dog. But I look at this Tennessee defense. I think y'all should still be damn good. I mean, they were one of the best in the country last year. And yeah, you lose some of the top guys, but I'm looking at the defensive line, I'm looking at the linebacker room, and I'm looking at the secondary. Tennessee ought to be able to run it back pretty good defensively.
Yeah, they've got some good linebackers in Arian Carter and T. Lander. They're really good. I think we're solid there. On the edge, which is where we were great last year, we've got a couple of 5-stars there. This Jordan Ross guy could be phenomenal. And then Joshua Josephs, if he takes one half a step forward, he was already good. And then when you look at our defensive cornerbacks, that was the key difference for Tennessee. We'd had an excellent defensive line for years, but our secondary, Josh's first year was awful because they'd all transferred out after the whole Jeremy Pruitt saga. And we really struggled, but the offense carried us. Well, it got better and better. Last year, it was great. We had Jermod McCoy, who's coming off an ACL. He was darn near the defensive player of the year. What's his
status? What's his status coming off that ACL?
They think he's going to be able to start right away, but it usually takes a while. I'm looking for him to really probably October to be himself again at the earliest. He's
projected like top 15.
Now, they brought in a guy, Colton Hood from Colorado, who's supposed to be really good as kind of a backup for him. And then Ricky Gibson's our other cornerback who's excellent. So we're pretty covered there. We've got good safety help. I think we're going to be good at defense. I think that's one of the reasons why people are kind of, they're not putting us, into a bad spot right now. They think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, not only good, but like old. That's a veteran group. When you talk about the Colton Hood guy coming in to
I believe went from Auburn to Colorado and from Colorado now to Tennessee. I may be mistaken on that, but I think
Colton Hood kid?
Yeah, I think Colton Hood was at Auburn.
Okay, gotcha.
And was a good player.
That's really the only name that I've seen that's an incoming transfer or true freshman, even in the 2 deep of Tennessee's defense. So they've been there. It's an old group. It's a veteran group. I want to ask you about Diego Pavia and the comments that he made saying that Vanderbilt is going to run the state of Tennessee now. The kid is a gamer. He's balled out. He's beaten some SEC teams, not like some true freshman who's come in and hasn't proven himself. At the same time, they lost to Georgia State a year ago. What do you make of Diego Pavia saying Vandy's going to run the state now?
Diego is the best thing that ever happened to Vanderbilt. I am a fan of Diego. I love his playing style and his brashness. He's not going to be running Tennessee. That's funny. That's ridiculous. But, hey, you know what? That's a lot better than what Vanderbilt's had in the past. Yeah. And Vanderbilt beat Alabama and Auburn last year, which I'm still in total shock over that. Yeah. That's impossible. You cannot do that at Vanderbilt. And by God, he did it.
Well, it should get you an Infinity Stone. If there's any Infinity Stones out there, that's got to be. And I still say, James Franklin can win 3 national championships in a row at Penn State, but winning 9 games at Vanderbilt, twice, is still the most impressive thing that I think James Franklin will have ever done in his coaching career. It's incredible, actually.
So right now,
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So right now, Tennessee is slated from a win total standpoint 8.5. That's going off at -120. And their total to win the conference is plus 2,700. So, John, I want you to give me your thoughts. Do you see this Tennessee team being able to win more than 8.5 games? So that would get them to 9. Right now, the money is laying with them to get over that 8.5 win total with the new quarterback coming in.
Boy, I have not seen Joey Aguilar. I'm not sure what to expect, honestly. And I knocked us down about one game, losing Nico not based on how he played last year, how I thought he was going to play this year, because I was expecting normally that first year to second year, you see that jump with a quarterback when everything starts to slow down. I think Joey will probably play on a similar level to how, like Nico did last year, but I don't know that we're going to be quite as good on defense. I don't know if we'll be able to run the ball quite as good. I'm a little concerned. 8.5 is probably about right where I would be without seeing Joey. Now, once I've seen Joey play a few games, I may feel confident saying 9 or 10, or I may be like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Well, how does Jake Merklinger look?
Well, starting off with Syracuse, and that's the first game they have, I think is perfect, right? You're not going to know if Joey Aguilar goes out there against, Mary Margaret and the sisters of the scared and dyslexic, like we said the other day. You're not going to know. You want to go, not that Syracuse is some juggernaut, right? They have to replace a lot of people, but they are respectable. So you at least get a little bit of a real look at what they're going to ask Joey Aguilar to do, and then what Joey Aguilar can do. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm glad with that. I don't want to play Ohio State again week 1, but I also don't want to play, some team we're going to drown in a small puddle of water.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Syracuse won 10 games last year. They're solid. Now they're replacing their quarterback, and I believe they went with that Angeli kid from Notre Dame.
They got Angeli, and then they've got Ricky Collins Jr. that transferred from LSU as well. But it's looking like, we were talking with Tom Luganbill the other day. You would think it'd be Angeli, right?
I don't know, maybe. Yeah. He played well when he went in.
Yeah.
I'm just glad it's not a veteran quarterback that's been there for years, like maybe that kid from Illinois.
Yeah.
We actually tried to tamper and get him in the spring.
Yeah, you're talking about Altmaier? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were tampering like crazy in the spring. We were desperate to get a quarterback.
If you're not tampering, you're not trying.
Just don't give him a cheeseburger, man. Your head coach. Yeah. Then Josh Heupel will have to go to the NFL and coach the team.
Definitely.
But one more thing, though, talking about new quarterbacks, it seems like most of the conference is doing that. I mean, outside of Garrett Nussmeier and a couple others, we talked about DJ Lagway and Lenore Sellers and some of those guys. But at some of the bigger programs, you really are seeing a lot of quarterback turnover. Which teams in the SEC right now are your favorites to win the conference, John?
To win, I always go with Georgia. I'm a little bit concerned about Alabama. They've been very quiet this year, and he brought in that Ryan Grubb. I call him Shake and Bake. He and Kalen DeBoer. I don't like that combination getting back together like that.
Yeah.
They're a little too happy together. And everybody in Alabama has been very quiet. I don't like them being quiet. It's like they're happy and satisfied. That's not good.
It's a good point. Shake and bake. That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, John, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. This has been fantastic. And tell everybody, if they don't know, if they're a Tennessee fan watching this or just in general, where they can find your work.
I'm just at Sports Talk Jay on YouTube. That's what I do. I like talking football and doing all these types of things.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate y'all inviting me, by the way.
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like Louis Lastic said on Remember the Titans. Somebody said a football, so I came running. That's exactly right. John, thanks so much, buddy.
Okay.
And thank you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell us, what do you think Tennessee's record is going to be in 2025? Will they hit over that 8.5 win mark? Will they be underneath it? We want to know. And just like the chances of the young kid getting the start probably week 1 against Syracuse at Tennessee, we're going.
Oh, yeah, you're due for that.
That's Tennessee.
That's Tennessee. Well, the way I chipped yesterday, I'll take that one.
There we go.
That's right, Clint. I know you're hearing me. We're going. Gone.